everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today is the most exciting day. It is the day that I talked to you about what Acrylic April is going to be about this year. I'm doing it a little bit earlier than I usually do, but that's because there's so much to go over, and this is such a big and awesome year. A lot of fun stuff happening. So if you're not familiar, Acrylic April is a 30-day painting challenge that I created where I get together with my wonderful, amazing art community, and we paint every single day from April 1st to April 30th. I do this, and I started this in 2019. This is my 5th year doing it because daily painting is it's this unique thing that really can help an artist break through. One of my biggest breakthroughs personally was from daily painting. When I get stuck, I daily paint, and actually since I've been on YouTube now for a while, I daily paint, and I think it's made me a better artist. And what daily painting kind of does is it gets you out of your own head. We have a lot of architecture and expectations and inner dialogue that we like to set on ourselves, and we kind of project that onto our art, and that can actually limit our growth. Whereas daily painting, at some point, you're just painting every day, and you're doing little paintings, and at some point, your brain just goes, I can't keep up anymore. And you just start to paint. Now, for anyone who's been here before, please talk to the new people coming. One, tell them how beneficial it is, how awesome it is, and how, yeah, we're not going to love every painting in the 30 days that we do. I don't love every painting in the 30 days that I do. And we're not supposed to. But what we're supposed to do is consecutively paint, and what happens is a very special type of learning and artistic growth. That's why I do it. Now, the first part of this video, I'm going to go over the materials in such a way that you guys will have a really good sense of what you're shopping for and what you're going to need and how much of it you're going to need. What exactly I'm using, and then also how you can shop in your area or use what you already have. So that's the purpose of the first part of the video.
Can I mention while we're talking about shopping?
On the mic is my husband John, who's going to help me with this very involved video because this one's a big one, biggest one I've ever done.
Hi guys, I want to mention our store is opening right now. So if you go over to theartsherpa.com, it is in the process of opening, and we'll go into more of that later. There's a redirect at the top. Yep, store.theartsherpa.com.
If the mods could drop the direct link into that. So yeah, now it's opening. I don't know. Technology has to think and talk to itself and do things.
It's linking all up. It takes a little time.
The urgent question you probably have is kits. Yes, there are going to be kits that you can direct shop off of the store. Those will be in and working by tomorrow evening.
Yep, but we'll have all those popular.
Maybe sooner. I'm not saying it's like a Taylor Swift concert, but you probably want to save the link and just watch the store.
Because
it did finally get it open, and it does carry a ton of art supplies, several thousand, and we will be adding all of the time. In fact, I'm going to NAMTA this year to get the rest of the art partners that I really hope to have in my store, like Faber and Castell and Derwent, and
So yeah, well, I'll let you get to it, but just so everyone knows, it is open, but all the items in the store will be populating over the next hour, so keep your eyes out.
Yeah, just keep watching it. The prices are good. That's what I can tell you. The pricing was a journey, and they're good, especially over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah,
it's changed a lot. All right,
okay, keep going there.
So the first part of this, we're going to go over the materials. We'll probably shout the store. I'm also going to tell you about some upcoming interesting things about Acrylic April. Then I'm going to tell you the theme. Yes, I'm telling you the theme early. And then because the theme is as complicated yet simple as it is, I am going to go through all 30 paintings, explain to you the style, the techniques, and what you learn in each one. So if you're wanting to know that, this one is going to be the deep dive, but I'm going to get the nitty gritty out first for you guys who are like, I don't need to see all 30. I have been testing this one on the patrons, and while they were many of them initially reluctant, I have converted all of them. So what I want to say is I'm going to go through the materials. I want you to know that you're going to have a reaction to the theme, and then also I'm going to explain why you should put that aside and still do this with me this year, because it's going to be my most transformative educational year I have ever done. I mean, it is going to break through. I'm so proud of this program. Okay, first things first, the paint. So if you did the last color mixing video about the 6 colors that you need, you're kind of familiar with the colors. I have cadmium yellow, I have lemon yellow Hansa. So that's a change from the previous 4 years. And the change is really about availability and other issues that artists were having. The reason that lemon yellows are easier to get is often they are in the Hansa line. You can also buy Hansa Yellow Light is the same thing. Lemon Yellow is the same thing. Or Cadmium Lemon Yellow, Hue or Pure, same thing. And those are probably some of the most readily available colors. When you see the words yellow, light, or lemon, you are in the zone.
Okay. Cool. So
no, I got to get through. We'll take questions later.
Sorry. I got it.
All right. Yeah, I got to. Oh, and I lost the screen.
I'll fix it.
Cad Red Medium. You can use Hue. You can use Pyro Red. Our fabulous Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Mars Black, Titanium White. Then we have the convenience color, Phthalo Green. We have Dioxazine Purple. And we have Burnt Sienna. As all the other previous years, I am doing 8x8 surfaces. You will be able to find these surfaces in the store, and Art Alternatives worked with me to create an economy pack. It's this is classic cotton 8x8, and that's what I use, and I really love it. But I know with budgets and everything, that can be a challenge. So there's also a really cool pack of economy canvases that are also quality, like better than what you might get at other unnamed stores. Now, the other weird tools that I had going on this year were the Poscas, Posca White and Posca Black. I highly recommend the 3mm because oftentimes white doesn't work great in 1mm, and it's just the white and black, and we'll have available just the white and just the black, so you don't have to buy a whole pack. Sometimes these are hard to find in individuals, and we have all those individuals. So, oh, I'm holding things up and they couldn't even see it because I couldn't. All right, let me do that all again, guys. I am so incredibly sorry. My monitor went out. Yeah, all right, I'll go over this again. These are the convenience colors, Dioxazine Purple, Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna. These colors right here. Posca pens. So sorry about that. I bet they were like, what? We can't see. No, not yet. But. And then Posca white and black in 3mm. Again, available at the store. The canvas. Wow, I can't believe I went over this. The Art Alternatives canvas, also available at the store in the classic cotton and that economy pack that I mentioned. But guys, I'm going to tell you that I have a store, but I'm also going to tell you that these art supplies exist in the world elsewhere. So you don't have to get from me, and we can't yet initially ship globally yet. So we're working on that part. Yeah, we just have rights right now in this area in North America, but as our rights expand, we will open the store up globally. But all of these things are available around the world. So not just from me.
Lots of people sell.
I want you to know that.
Yeah, lots of people sell similar stuff, and you'll be fine with that.
They do. Now, on the brushes. First thing I'm going to let you know is new this year is the artist knives. All right. So I am playing with RGM artist knives. They are an Italian artist knife. What you kind of need to know is that diamond heads and trowels. Oh, as they drop down. I think a diamond head, at least in a mid-size, is a good idea. You can get this one from me, but you can find RGMs. Maybe not the cutie cute colored ones, but you can find them around. I have a very tiny one for control. I like to have a long needle one. I've got a trowel that's nice for mixing. Let me be more organized. Okay, so the difference between a diamond head and the trowel is just the shape. This is sort of rounded and wide and nice for color mixing, and this has edges so you can do lines and sharp bits and really control your knife. There will be a palette knife course, a video all about palette knives where we go into palette knives for about an hour, and I show you all the tricks of this. This weird knife and the one that you see the Happy Painter use is a Scotty knife, and they're just multi-angles, and they're also very nice. Generally, you buy these in packs. I think we do have them as individuals, but we buy these in packs, and You know, there's also a bunch of weird fun shapes. You really only need, you know, a couple of these, like a kind of a big one and a small one. So you can get a bunch, but you just need a couple sizes so that you have some control. And I have the exact every single brush I used. I used a lot of brushes this year and a lot of tools because I'm traveling and I just have these travel brushes and I didn't know what my life was going to be like. And so oftentimes I'll use 2 different brands of essentially the same brush. So I have the complete list. If you're a completionist, we'll have that there for you. I have a simplified list with what the essentials are that you need, so you don't have to have every single brush that I have. So just know that that will get published and out, and that will be sent out in the newsletter with the material list, the calendar, and the paintings for the week that are coming up. So if you're looking for that, that will be coming out, and that's where that will be. All right. The other thing is a mop. Generally, I like a 1-inch oval mop and a synthetic. You can find these a lot of places. I use the 1-inch Princeton Select, yes, at the store. I know I'm going to be saying that a lot today. When it's open, you can go get them. I think we have a grip. They'll just be easy to find, and they'll be there. And again, the kits will have both of those set up. I used a couple sizes of angle. So I use the 1-inch, the 1/2 inch, and the 1/4 inch angles. I also use them in this style of brush, which is the long handle. But you can see they're essentially same. So you can have all of these. I like all of these brushes. I own all of these brushes because I like having all of these brushes, but you don't have to have all of these brushes. And again, that list will be sent out in the newsletter. You're going to want to have some type of number 1 liner or number 2 liner. These are liners. Let me get the one that I have. I have the Select here. So these are liners that will have the precision in the store really soon. It's coming in. But we all have the Selects right now. These are liners. A 1 or 2 will work. I know I'm going fast. I want to say... are we going to be able to get the images in advance so we can prep? Yeah, there is actually going to be advanced images this year. And I'm going to walk you through all 30 images, and then they're going to be up on events and in the website, and the traceables will be up, and everything will be up early this year. In fact, I will be done with that probably by tomorrow. Where are you going, babe?
You don't need me. You got all the things. You're like answering questions.
Okay. I use this a lot. This is the Dritz chalk tool. I don't have this in store because Dritz, we just don't know anyone at Dritz. You can get this one at Joann's. You could also just use kids chalk, so it's not a hugely big deal there. So kids chalk, a chalk tool. Then I used a filbert. You guys know me and my filberts. I'll find it. Just a small filbert. That's when the brush is rounded like this. I use a filbert pretty regularly. The angles, you're going to need a couple of brights. I used this bright the most. And I also used, I think, where is it at? I have it right here. The Princeton, this one from Princeton. The Catalyst bright here, the number 8 a lot. So I used these 2 brights. This was the 12 Raphael. This was the number 8. I used that a lot. I am going to talk to you guys real quick about the synthetic rounds. And I will get one of them. There's this one. And then I used, I think, the Simply Simmons. I don't yet have the Simply Simmons. I will, hopefully after NAMPTA. But I do have these rounds. This is the Raphael number 10. You'll notice that they're very similar, though. You just want a small round with a good point. It's just a nice brush to have. I like to have a couple of these around. I used brights in my hogs. And let's see. I think it was the number 8. This one here. And a number 8. So I used the number 20 round and the number 8 round, and I used this number 20 round and this number 18 round. If you're on a budget, you really only need one. I would get the smaller size, and I would get both sides of this. Do you have to get this brand? No, because Simply Simmons has a Hog Bristle too. I will have this brand. These are a higher end brush. So, you know, Simply Simmons also carries this. Hog Bristles. I call them hogs. I've actually had the experience where one of you guys went to an art store, a big one, a giant chain, and the associate there didn't know what a hog brush was. I don't know how that works because they worked in the fine art department, but it's hog bristles is what we're looking for. And the tip on your hog bristle brush is just to wash it out and make sure that it is, what's up, babe? What'd I do? That's, did I take your coffee? I took your coffee cup. I took John's coffee cup. It's okay. I need it reheated if you want to switch out the cup. I need it reheated anyways. So reheat the coffee and then reclaim your cup. Well, Dad Jokes Sir Fresh Daily is definitely your cup. Now they can see it. It's not a green that the camera struggles with. Okay, guys. I know that was a lot. Brenda Smith says, I really hope I get myself to do this when I get frustrated if I can't get perfect. Well, I've got good news for you, Brenda. This year, we throw perfection out the window because our theme, which has been much requested, really doesn't allow for perfection. It really just doesn't let us do perfection, and that's what's wonderful about it. So that's one of the reasons why I picked the theme. When John comes back, I am going to show you guys the theme. Oh, another thing that I did use this year was titanium white fluid and a T-square ruler and low-tack artist tape. So those are kind of weird tools that I used. I also worked on a wet palette. All the things that you see me use on the show generally will have in the store unless it's like the Dritz chalk tool where we just couldn't get it. Oh, thank you, babe. Oh, I was going to have you reclaim it. We're going to go on to the theme. I will have to move the paint over to the side, and we're going to start with the theme. And here's what, guys. I don't want you to panic when you see it.
Make it big again,
yeah, make me big again because it's just going to be about the side. And I'm going to have notes because, John, how hard was this year? Was a challenge for me, wasn't it?
I gotta get my head sick. I was trying to make coffee. Somebody took my coffee cup. Was it a challenge for you? Yes. I would say that this is one of the more interesting years for you. Some of them were...
I grew a lot as an artist.
Some of them were really immediately gratifying for her. Some of them were immediately... oh no, what did I do? Some of them were, oh, I got an idea. Oh, that idea went so out the window. What am I going to do? And you can see her pivot
I had so much pre-design done, and I would still get into a piece and be like, where am I going? And I knew what I wanted to teach you guys. But to take you through it, what I'm basically doing is I'm explaining art from the 20th century on to you, and we're doing it in a hands-on way. And I'm going to make the museum a fun place to go again. We're no longer going to be looking at something like, I don't even know what the heck that is.
Yeah.
You're going to know what it is.
You're going to know.
I'm not saying you're going to love it, but you're going to know what it is, and you're going to know why it is, and I'm going to make it simple. And I have to tell you, I went through this in art school, and it was not simple. So finding a way to simplify these concepts and make them relatable and usable in everyday life and to understand why anybody did what they did, that was really challenged. The other thing you need to know about what's going on right now, the books. Remember how I kept writing books for Acrylic April from 2020 on?
Mm-hmm.
They got written.
Yep,
and books. And now they're all going to be published back to back to back to back. So basically on Amazon, coming very soon, probably I'll be making an announcement in the newsletter this week. 2020 will get published.
It should be released Monday, I think.
Yeah. And there's press releases coming out and articles and I don't know, Wikipedia is popping. Stuff is going crazy. It's everything everywhere all at once. Take my Oscar, please. I do believe that wild. Jamie Lee Curtis would be in my house like screaming how much she loves me, and it's just so great to see everybody be wonderful. It's all the books at once, and 2023 had a book, and it is being released.
Yeah, it'll probably go 2020, 2022, 2023, 2021, and then the beginner
acrylic painting course. So it's 5 books are going to be available on Amazon. Now, we are trying to get the Kindle of the book free because one of the reasons we had resisted doing books is that meant that information couldn't be released in certain ways in other areas. And also this is going to be in Barnes and Nobles and a bunch of other places published. It's not just going to be there, but that's where it's going to be. And I do believe it will be in I'm checking with the Amazon liaison, because we published so many books. We actually got a person to help us. They were like, that's a lot of completed books, not written by an AI.
Yeah, their first thing was check, are you a robot? Was the first check. They were like, poke, are you a human? Are you real?
I'm like, check the spelling, definitely human over here.
So they were like, no, this is emotional punctuation. You need an editor.
You need an editor. So that's been going on, and those are going to really start dropping, and hopefully will be available in the UK and everything. Everywhere there's an Amazon, hopefully that will be available. I will be checking that, and hopefully the Kindles will be free or close to free.
I hear Bezos is trying to open a store in low Earth orbit, so if you find yourself in an orbital trajectory and need a book.
Can I use the Hog Bristles that are with the oil brushes? Yes, if you've never used them in an oil painting. If you've ever used your brushes for oil painting, that's where they live now. They live in oil land. They've been marked. They're done. But if it's a brand new brush from the art store and it says brushes for oils, yeah, you can use it in acrylic. You can use all those brushes for acrylic if they're new. For sure. And you can rinse out an acrylic brush and use it in an oil where it will live forever after, but it can go over to the oil. It just can't go back the other way. However, even if in the brush store it says these are for oil painting, you're fine. You're okay. The reason that acrylic artists often don't use hog bristles is that they have trouble. They get soft as they get wet, but you guys see me all the time. I'm using the towel telling you guys to wipe them off, dry them out, pull it out. And I like them because they're just uniquely scruffy and awesome. So that's why I keep using them. Will the Tight Knit Yellow still work in place of Hansa or Lemon Yellow? So if you have the Tight Knit Yellow and you want to use it, you will get some different mixes than I get. But for this year, that won't really matter. It will just be slightly different in the color. Like I get some really crazy neons, and you might get some really crazy radioactive mid-century neons. You'll have a slightly different value to it. And what I would say is if you're like, hey, I'm on a budget and I want to paint along, I just can't go get another tube of paint, just paint with it. It won't significantly impact you. So you're going to be okay there. Congratulations on the books for purchase on Amazon, says Joe Scott. Thank you very much. It was a journey to get there. I was telling John, we'll do a video about it. Like no books, all the books, right? And I'll do a giveaway or something when the books all get out. I'll do like a set of signed giveaway or something for you guys. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll do something. All right, I'm going to tell you the theme. I'm going to get my notes. This is how intense it is. I have notes. Come on, Google Doc, behave. Google Doc won't behave. There it is. All right. Here we go. Shall we? We're going to reveal the theme is abstract. I know, guys, don't panic. It's going to be amazing, I promise you. So what you need to know, we're going to explore and actually learn about abstract. And what I have personally found as a teacher about abstract, for people that don't already love it and don't already kind of have a language and passion for abstract, that the issue with it is it seems unconsidered, unthought out. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. It just seems like an artist threw paint at a canvas and walked away. So it feels like the Emperor's New Clothes a little bit. It feels like a con or a game sometimes being played on people, but it isn't. It is a very considered process in School of Art. And the best way that I can explain it is it's like the plot of Twin Peaks. If you miss an episode, you have no idea what's going on next week, because abstract is a series of arguments across time between artists, society, and each other. That is what's happening. And it goes real fast, right? Where artists will respond to something, and then another group of artists will respond to them, and then they will all respond to some advancement or change in the world around them. And it goes back and forth like dueling banjos up until we taped a banana to a wall. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not weighing in on whether you would want to invest in a taped banana, though I do have a tutorial on how to tape your own banana with a traceable.
I want to jump in and say.
I do. Okay.
Oh yeah. But
no, please. All right. You
go
do
ahead,
yours,
go
then
ahead.
I got to go
No,
through.
Go.
I lost my train.
Oh, sorry. For those of you who are worried about abstract, this is not the abstract you thought.
No.
It's not. Just trust her.
It all makes sense.
Hang around. Just hang around for for her to go through these 30 images to explain them. I, as a lay person, did not understand the coolness of this, so just hang around. Hold off. Just put a pin in your disbelief for just a moment. I don't want to break her thought, but it is worth hanging around, guys.
It is.
Just,
and see through why I thought it out.
Yeah.
See all the paintings because they're all very different. Because we go through all of it. We go through color field abstraction, lyrical abstraction, abstract expressionism, expressionistic abstract, which, by the way, are not the same thing. Geometric abstraction, new expressionism, surrealist abstraction, cubist-inspired abstraction, abstracted landscape, and abstract realism. That's what we cover. I don't do complete action paintings. That's where we throw painted things. But we do a little action painting. I just couldn't do paint pouring and splatters because I'm at my mom's house and I'm a guest here. And I have, all the kids are here and we've already broken enough things. So I just couldn't just destroy her whole house. Now I'm going to go through each painting. I'm going to explain to you what type of abstract it is today and what techniques are used in it and what you're going to learn from it. You are going to be blown away. And I'll go through all 30, then these will be all released. Do not just not go because there's going to also be my eldest kid is working on building a school where these are all collected in a sequential level and these extra write-ups will be there as well. Plus this information will be in the book. So this information will be there and it will be in the web page too. So I'm not making it not free. It will still be available to you. If you're good at our website, you'll be able to find it. And I will be going through as I go through and it will be in write-ups when I announce the paintings. So I'm going to cover it today, but you will hear it again and you will become more comfortable. Again, I have notes. So again, I'm going to go over it. Abstract expressionism, expressionistic abstract, impressionism, pointillism, expressionism, cubism, surrealism, minimalism, fauvism, palette knife painting, brushwork techniques, texture techniques, composition, balance, emphasis, and contrast, layering, and glazing. Just in 30 days, you're going to know all about that, plus an incredible understanding of color mixing and color theory that's going to come with it. Whew.
That's a breath.
It's a breath, right? I have to get to my other notes. I wrote books, so I have notes.
So many notes.
All right, so you got to understand in abstract, there are 6 elements in a pure abstract. That's something that doesn't look like anything else in all abstract. There is line, right? Line, right? Texture. Sound effects help. Shape. The kind of interesting shape and space that takes up. The shapes and spaces that this takes up. By the way, John, you have this...
I didn't do it. It was a random square put there for framing.
Form, right? Okay, so form, it refers to three-dimensional aspect of an artwork.
Sorry, guys.
It can be done with shading and perspective like you would see in traditional art, but we just use it in a different way. Value, the light and darkness of stuff. Those are the basic tools. So the reason an abstract is good to do if you're a painter and you're struggling on doing original work, and the reason I'm doing this for 30 days, at the end of this, doing originals will be easier for you because this makes you strong in design and line and form and brushwork and texture and color theory and all the things that you need to be able to do to create original work, but sometimes very difficult to learn when using references. But you get it here. Patty Hoffman, thank you so much. And again, I am going to show you the palette knife work and the techniques and everything. Okay, so you're not going to be asked to know it. And in the book, I have goofy, fun definitions of all these different types of art. And honestly, what one led to another one and how they relate to each other. Because again, it sort of started with some impressionists and then people went, but what if I took the picture out of it and we just talked about how we feel and what we think about things, right? So let me see if I can go back into that one because that's really the one to understand is that what happened is people just kind of had a bit of a moment in their life. Let me get down to, okay, first concept, figurative or abstract. Those are the first terms you have. Figurative means it looks like something. Abstract means it doesn't look like something, or it is changed in such a way that the nature of its reality has been altered significantly, right? So non-representational art, non-figurative art, boom, what you're looking at here, there's no mouse. You may not see a duck, but you feel a duck. Abstract like this is abstract that you feel. And you use color and line and shape to feel it.
So you feel the duck.
You feel the duck, but you don't really see the duck, right? But what happens is, in terms of abstract, thank you very much, Jerry Waxman. I so appreciate that. Yay for abstract. Is objective painting versus subjective painting. These terms are confusing because you have a subject in painting, but subjective painting does not have a subject. What? That's insane, right? Gonna say it again.
Yeah,
Paintings have a subject, but subjective painting doesn't have a subject. So in abstract painting, these are kind of crazy. Let's talk about objective. This is all about non-representational and non-figurative, right? You're just painting your emotion. Now, subjective painting, it's like a backstage pass into an artist view, right? It's raw and unfiltered, and it's just emotion, and it's just experiences, and it just lets you know where the artist is coming from, right? Whereas objective painting tends to lean more into the techniques and the design and form, and subjective tends to rely more on the emotions. Oh, and there are 10 Art Sherpa memberships, and Angela Pyle, thank you so much. And I got Patty Hoffman. Okay, so painting 1. Let's go over it. Let's go through all 30. You ready? It's going to be a fun ride. And again, we go over this again, and it's all in the book written out, definition by definition, thought by thought. But we're going to explain this. Let me tell you, writing up what type of abstract each painting was its own thing. So day 1. This combines a couple of abstract styles, right? Because it has loose and energetic brush strokes, free palette knife work, and it has a strong, pure abstract influence. This is abstract expressionism, right? And it's characterized by this spontaneous brushwork and knife work. But I also have some geometric abstraction. That's when we have geometry and shapes. I have some of that in there. So I took abstract expressionism and I threw some geometry on it. Super fun. It actually is. And by combining these styles, I get to get a unique and dynamic composition. So I look back to the past, right? From the geometric expression, abstract artists that like circles and squares and shapes like Mondrian, angles, color. And then I kind of go with all the abstract expressionists, which is a whole series of long benches of school of just very expressive paintings. So that's what's in there. And we use a fun sense of feminine color, but yet strong contrast. And we get something that's kind of dynamic. Day 2, because I didn't want to scare everybody to death. Something you're maybe a little more familiar with. Abstract landscapes. This is an abstracted landscape. And it has some gestural abstraction. See the motion and energy in these brush strokes where I kept a point of putting down solid, thick areas of paint next to each other. A little bit of pointillism there. Pointillism is basically where you put 2 colors next to each other and your mind blends them together to make a third color. It's kind of like an artist's magic trick. Further back you get, the more the colors blend. Thank you so much, Angela Pyle. So because we used a soft diffuse background and we had such a strong sense of lilac, we used, all right, the other important part is this looks like you're squinting. So you're squinting almost in an unfocused, dreamlike manner. So that's another way that we did subjective abstract, with the emotional kind of abstract, like this deep core emotion of it into the painting. I'm like, I have to do notes, right?
That's okay. I needed notes.
I needed notes. That's what was going on. What are you going to learn from this? You're going to learn color mixing. You're going to learn how to put color next to each other to create depth and dimension in canvas. You're going to learn how you can still create the feeling or essence of the elements of a landscape without specifically, objectively painting the landscape. We're not looking at a landscape and really painting it. This is objects relationally to each other in a landscape. Now we're going to get a little weirder with it as we go on. I thought I'd give you something that like kind of felt like a landscape early on to introduce this to you. The patrons had a really good time doing it. This one, we got weird again.
I like this one. This one was nice.
This is a bit of abstract color field painting, right? With some elements of gestural abstraction. So through here is our gestural abstraction, and in the back is our color field painting. The soft diffused background with blended colors and lilacs, pinks, and yellows creates an immersive and meditative experience. I'm doing this with you, and I will share these with you. This also helps you understand how to kind of talk about a painting when you see it. The middle section that has repeating knife marks, this is done with palette knife, which creates kind of a texture. And the central palette knife marks in the orange, pulling that focus in, right, with this light in the center, really pulls the viewer in. The soft explosion of this color is non-objective nature, keeps the painting firmly abstract, but feels a little bit like light in a landscape, doesn't it? And then the palette knife marks, where they're so gestural, where we create these lines and stuff like that, has a layer of like complexity and structure to what is a fairly unstructured piece. Overall, this painting is atmospheric. Doesn't it feel like it has an atmosphere? It feels kind of like looking into a sky or like a spiritual place. And again, that's the use of the color field, the color theory in here, and these soft diffused colors blending into each other and vibrating back and forth. We play a lot with that. The way this value in color pulls forward and these values in colors seem to recede back into the canvas. Those are the things we play with. Exactly what we play with in like landscape painting, but you know, you're trying to push those mountains back. The same principles of pushing this element of the canvas back is the same thing that pushes those mountains back. So understanding why a color recedes and pulls forward, it's very important. Okay, this one a lot of people were super excited about because we kind of did a little bit of a tip of a hat, right? This is a geometric abstract, right? This is a wonderful geometric abstract, and we used a little bit of color field painting here as well. The way the colors are solid areas of colors pull forward and push back. So we've got some color field painting and some geometric abstraction. This should remind you of paintings that you have seen in the museum of solid fields of color. So what happens here is the red and the turquoise play against each other around this black edge, right? And then the yellow pulls forward, and understanding how just a field of color can create space on a canvas. And I have to promise you, the bigger this gets, the more emotional and awe-inspiring it gets. Looking at colors that pull against each other in color theory, right? The way that there is a pulling forward of the yellow and a pushing back of the blue, and then that red encompassing it, that actually does give us an emotional response visually, right? So artists that were doing this were trying to come back to a sense of how can I only speak to my emotion and be as non-figurative possible, but yet have the structure and the use of color and shape to create a sense of the world, right? So that was their little argument that they had, as you do. Everybody got to argue with somebody in art, and that's what abstract is an ongoing little argument with somebody else. Now, one of the things you guys will instantly notice is that I don't sign every painting and I sign some. And I talk about that a lot during the class. All right. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Cimarron. Still thanking Jerry Waxon. And we have a new member. Welcome to patrons of YouTube. Thank you. All right. Oh, and I also had a hard edge painting in the last one. So you'll hear people talk about it. It's these edges that aren't diffused, that the edges are strong and hard and don't blend easily into the other. You have to use hard edges in traditional painting to create the beginning and end of a form or figure, right? You don't want to just softly diffuse it into the next because otherwise you couldn't see anything. Hard edge painting. I love this one. Everybody loved this one. This is abstract expressionism again with gestural abstraction, right? And you can see that there's a lot of motion, there's a lot of energy, the play of color, the play of patterning. We actually ended up using this brush quite a lot to create almost these little pebbles or gems of color that dance through here. And you get a sense that this piece is dancing and has motion to it. The forms that come through the diagonal and then again center, the way we pulled contrast to hold the viewer in the canvas and yet have little moments of rest up in the top and the bottom. This is a very good piece on composition. One of the things that happens with new artists when they're trying to paint abstract, because they're not familiar with all the different types of abstract, they tend to just want to throw paint on a canvas, which is great, you know, action painting. We all kind of love it. But you also need to know when to start, when to stop, what colors to add, what colors you might want to like take away. Oh, thank you, Lenore Allen. You know, and so abstract really teaches us when a painting needs to stop, but it's really hard to know when that is. But abstract really asks us, like if I just kept going and kept going and kept going, what I would have is a beautiful mess, but it would be a mess. It would not be a composition that the viewer could relate to. So even though this is very non-figurative, right? It's still something that the figure can relate to. The missing painting from day 6. This is palette knife work. We did a nice diffuse background and then we worked all the palette knife in here. This is a semi-abstracted landscape and its focus is on texture and palette knife techniques, okay? So by using the directionality of the palette knife in the horizontal sense and then also in kind of a loose sense, we create kind of this atmosphere of what feels like clouds does, is not clouds, but feels like clouds does, and what feels like a reflection in water because we've mirrored these things to each other. That's what kind of makes it feel like it could be water to us. Also, by using these bright centers, and you'll see this again and again and again, we work with light a lot in this year. We're going to go into reds and oranges, into blues and purples, and therefore create that feeling of a sunset over water. This line bisecting the painting, right? It creates zones of what we start to interpret as sky and what we interpret as water is important. So yeah, we've got a semi-abstract painting here with strong palette knife techniques, strong use of texture, strong use of gesture, strong use of color. You nail this, you're going to be able to nail a sunset. It's the same principles. The next one is like the funnest one. Not of the whole time, but like it's super fun. Isn't that fun? So bright and so cheerful. This is organic abstract art. That's pretty kind of direct. Like if you had to describe this to somebody, what elements do you see? Well, you see elements that feel rounded and soft and free-flowing in shape, like when we paint natural things, organic things, things that aren't made by mankind, right? And, oh, if I'm missing anything, I'm so sorry, guys. We use the Posca pen to create some patterning and texture. Just for those of you doing Lifebook, actually, this was a little bit of a tip of the hat to Lifebook. Just because of the fun patterns and colors and stuff that you will see there typically. And it's completely original, but that's sort of, I got all inspired one day and I was like, I do that too. So, you know, the use of pattern and repetition and the organic shapes, bright colors, sherbet colors create a lot of energy. It's vibrant and it's lively. A lot of times when we talk about a painting like this, we'll talk about that it's lively. that the way this moves through these organic shapes and bends through them makes them feel like they are existing in three-dimensional space because of the placement of this strong line, right? And so that ends up being there. And it's a very good example of organic abstract, and you will see a lot of organic abstracts out there, especially in pattern spaces like this. So we got to explore this, and I really love this play of color. We got to do some action painting with drips and everything. It was actually a lot of fun. Little drip, little mess, not big mess. All right, this was one of my favorites of the month. Okay, so surrealism and abstraction are actually related to each other. And so I wanted to create something that was an abstract landscape, but to blend elements of surrealism and visionary landscape painting, right? So in visionary landscape painting, you're painting what the soul feels or sees. And in surrealism, you're painting what the dream is. And in abstraction, you are breaking down and distorting where the reality lies. We don't paint things as they really are. We paint things as they feel and are to us almost symbolically, right? So this painting does that. And I took half of the painting and I put it in these warm colors and half of the painting putting in these cool colors. And so the division of the fiery colors and ice colors creates contrast, and it pushes this otherworldly feeling, this feeling of being in a spiritual place. The fact that there's an implied set of maybe mountains or structures back here gives us a sense of scale by creating something that felt like a figure. It's a very abstracted little figure, but it's small with the long shadow. We can feel small in the sense of that. Again, that elevates that spirituality in the piece. And the fact that he's going through spires into an unknown glowing space implies transition in the world. So he's transitioning from one state to the next. So this is abstract surrealism or abstract visionary surrealism. Whoa, I got crazy with you there, didn't I? Are you guys loving that? I got to go back to my, where is my calendar? I got to go to my next week because I had the first week memorized and then I had to go to my next week. Where's recents? Okay. So then we're going to go. All right. I know my stack. I love this one. Isn't this one just joyful? Just super, super joyful is this one. I love it very much. All right. Contemporary still life with elements of abstraction and gestural brushwork. So we used expressionism, pattern, gestural brushwork. We used composition. So we created a very strong composition with the pear. I decided to throw a pear in this year because, well, Big Art Quest originally started with a pair of pears that I made everybody paint without instruction. And it created so many fun, crazy events coming afterwards. So this painting is sort of a love letter and a tip back to the community who's still with me from the pear days. And we come back and we paint a pear, but we don't paint a pear as we see it. We also are using colors in such a way where our focal is in this red and we have these pops of greens and yellows, but our predominant area is blue, and that puts the pear even more in focus. So we're using the way we relate to color and color theory to pull this forward. And then we sort of change the planes of this by creating the patterning through here, and then the arabesquing on the brush strokes, right? Also elements to abstractions. This is more in the modern terms, like what you might see more in modern art than maybe like 20th century. It's like coming more into our now. But I wanted to do some stuff that, you know, would feel like that fresh contemporary sense of things. Okay. Remember how we talked about geometric abstraction and the artist Mondrian? So Mondrian is the artist that had the lines with the little primary colors and line. There's been dress at it. A lot of the mod designs of the 60s were based on this work. And this artist was like a master of geometric abstraction and pattern. And what I did is I took a traditional concept of a still life and I used that concept of geometric abstraction, playing against the black field, creating strong white lines. These lines are actually in continuity across the structures in here, and it bisected the vase, creating that sort of classical sense of geometry. And then playing primary colors, which is a triadic color composition, right? It's the easiest one to create. You have some areas of it that feel more vibrant and pulling forward and pushing back. We use pattern again to either flatten or add interest to elements. And the continuation of lines and stems to the vase and primary colors, even though there's a floral element here, you can still see the geometry in it. And I thought that was a fun play, because geometric abstracts very rarely have anything organic in them, and I liked playing those against each other. Thank you, Trish Woods. And I show the hearts. I'm so glad you guys are loving it. So that is going to be day 11, and again, the patrons painted this and they're getting incredible results. This was the area, remember I said Posca pen in the 3mm? That was the easy way I did these lines. I could have just used paint and brushed them out, so you can do them either way. You don't have to have the Posca. It will be available at the store. Do we have any store news?
Store news. I haven't been looking for store news. I
just didn't know.
No, I think the store news is going to be that you guys just keep an eye on it.
Did you keep the stacks the way I had them? Because I had them organized by week.
I did. I did not shuffle the stacks.
Okay. I love this one so much.
So
this is one of my favorites from the month.
The store news is that keep an eye on the store, because it will be it's some of it's not in our control. Some of it's like this DNS stuff that updates. Some of it's like on the servers that unlocks things. Some of it's that I don't know, just technological stuff. So anyway, on with the cinnamon.
Okay, day 11. Look at this great one. This just, oh my gosh, the color just gives me life. The pinks and the oranges and the greens. I went back into that gestural patterning and then line work to making objects more important. So this is abstract expressionism with figuration. This is called figuration and fluidity. That's this background area where everything is sort of wet into wet blending. And we did use a wet into wet blending technique. Am I going to be going over all of these types as we paint them? So I have this, because this type of thinking is something that I almost have to stop and write out. I will have these written in the video descriptions, these artist statements, and then I'll have it in the school, and you'll get little explanations of them in the book. Sometimes in the process of creating this, I will talk about the type of, I'll say I'm being expressive here. I will talk about the technique, but not necessarily the artist statement. Artist statements are something that I kind of do after I've completed a piece, and then I have to break down, what was I doing there? What on earth was I thinking? So I'll just all right, abstract expressionism with elements of figuration and fluidity. I am characterizing it by my emphasis on spontaneous emotional expression and bold dynamic brushwork, colors, and shapes. I used wet into wet with the blue and white to create flowing ink-like backgrounds, and it set a stage for the contrast and vibration of the pink and green fields that created this sort of playful nature. The expressive line work and scribbles throughout further emphasized the abstract expressionist nature of the piece, showcasing my focus and emotion and personal interpretation of this. So by using this line work and this motion through here with these marks and through the shadows and everything, I start to have a conversation with the viewer about what's important here with me. I make this relationship of the figures to each other important to me, right? The relationship of community, perhaps family, those types of elements become important to me. And the way that I put the green against the orange, which is sort of contrasting, and then pulled the pink in, which kind of created some dynamism there. It lets you feel the moment of maybe seeing, friends walking together, or a moment kind of observing a park, but the feeling of the park. Thank you, Goldie Ford, rather than the park itself. So, and what's been interesting to me is seeing patrons when they're painting these going, this feels like this to me, or I see this in it. And then a lot of times the number one thing I have to do as an abstract artist when I'm creating abstractly, and y'all know I tend to create figuratively, I tend to paint subjects, is that I'm having a conversation with the viewer through the painting. This is a secret message from me to whoever sees it. And in that, depending on how much figurative object, the subject I put into it, where I tell the story, like if I paint a kitten in a Christmas tree with Christmas lights and bulbs, I've really told a lot of story. Now there's some story that the viewer can still interpret. Who is this kitten? Why is the kitten in the tree? You know, oh, these are mid-century bulbs, you know, who made this tree? There's story you can still see, but a lot of the story is told for you. In a piece like this, very little of the story is told for you, so you get to fill in the rest. It's a conversation and a relationship. Color field painting is a conversation. It's a secret message from the painter to you. So, oh, and I do the fun thing. We talk about how the CIA funded modern art.
Oh, yeah,
that is not a myth. That's a true fact. The CIA funded modern art because they wanted non-figurative work to take the front stage in art because it broke down the conversation of classism that was going on in art at the time. And so it was an actual funded CIA project. I think I talk about that in the school a little bit. Who likes Frankenthaler? So this is sort of a tip of the hat to Helen Frankenthaler. And Frankenthaler, even though her pieces often emote the sense of landscape, this is actually, again, color field painting. And it's an abstract landscape using color field painting. Now, I have these strong shapes here. See how these shapes are very defined and they have hard edge here, but they are natural in their sense. And the way the field of this blue against this warm area creates that sense of maybe perhaps sky, but maybe not. So that's that sort of fun play we like to do. You know, and the influence, I think, of Helen Frankenthaler was really present in there. I didn't necessarily use all famous abstract artists to be influenced by, but there were some that I really came into and was like, you know, I relate to this artist. I think of this, and just from my art school days where I like their work. There's a painting in my mom's house right now over the fireplace that is so reminiscent of this. I can't even explain to you, especially this little passage here. In artwork, when we find a beautiful bit of color, shape, line, form, texture, design, we can sometimes call that a passage, like a passage in a poem. It's a little area that speaks, and this bit between the blue and white, I just loved it so much. It's where the white paint floated in the blue, in the wet field, and we talk about that technique a bit. So, oh, the next one I love because it was the first time I did this. And here's the first of the lyrical abstraction. Lyrical abstraction. Isn't that wonderful? Lyrical abstraction. Trying to get this squared in there.
In the square.
In the square. All right. So now you'll notice that lyrical abstraction is totally marked by the fact it's emotional and expressive qualities of color, form, composition, and it often makes you think of music. If you look at this, and I thought of this, this felt like the Fantasia when they animated the music, right? Or Allegro when the music was just animated. This is how sound feels to me. And there was a really fun thing. These thick areas on the outer surface, right, coming through here where the color, so it's this soft sort of color field that we did again, right, with the soft blended colors in and the way they vibrate. But then I came over the top and sort of in reminiscent colors, right, thickly went over, creating a sort of narrative and flow. And then even though this is completely non-figurative, unrepresentational work, you still get the sense of music here directly. I felt like these just almost felt like dancing figures, and the lines, you know, added an element of delicacy to it, like notes like popping out. So this was sort of like synesthesia, where you paint what you hear, like you see color, from sound. It had that sort of feeling to it. So that's what was going on there. And then the other thing to think about is just the form and flow of this. This curve counterposed to this curve, the way these lines intersect, it creates a delicate sort of balance between these two objects on the painting. And then the playfulness of the full plops of color across this diffuse background, it has like a childlike charm to it. It's like dancing or playing with you. And that's what this piece really had. I did little thick areas of paint with my palette knife work to sort of add another textural layer on top of that. And again, it's a conversation of me playing with you when you're doing this. This is about being playful, right? And so that's what I have going on that. Oh, everyone's like, Fantasia, I'm familiar with it. Okay, the next one is the most controversial one. Man, I have to tell you, it came from a raw place.
This
not going to be everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
We almost didn't include it in the collection. But then we were talking about abstract art, and that's about painting how you feel and being really raw in emotion. And I had some stuff happen last year that just, I had, it's called betrayal trauma. It's not from John. Don't worry, not from John. But that's what it's called, is I've had a series of betrayal trauma experiences, and this one was quite profound. It was emotionally harmful. It was financially harmful. It just ate my trust. The vileness that I felt around it was incredibly painful. And I left that experience a little bit wounded. So, it's been kind of hard to, process through that. And this is very strong expressionistic abstract, right? Right? And I'm going to explain to you between day 14 and day 15 the difference between expressionistic abstract and abstract expressionism, because they sound the same but are not the same. Now, the expressionistic abstract is characterized by my attempt to convey how raw my emotions are in the piece. And through being bold and rough and angry and distorted or exaggerating form or the intensity, the way I exaggerated the eyes and the gritting of the teeth, and I just use like these strong, almost just because it's black, white, and red, that's a very strong kind of intense color palette to be working with. The fact that the face feels angry and we get the sense of sort of radiating energy out of the eyes. There's like little bees that are buzzing around that we painted over. And then the tears coming down. I was just really trying to work with some very uncomplicated stuff. And the truth is that for the most part, I always try to, okay. We've got people sending messages to supply list on the Art Sherpa and it says Acrylic April 2023, and I'm interested in the kit. We will make sure we get back with you guys.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in the kit, you can email us and we'll make sure we send out a message to everybody to let them know. Hey, congratulations, Jenna Bug. The bug. So there's bugs for the bugs. In general, I try to paint the world I want to live in, and in general, I try to paint things that are uplifting and make me feel better about the world. But art isn't always like that. And it can't always be like that. Sometimes we do have to touch into maybe more uncomfortable spaces and rougher emotions and rougher places in there. This painting, it is expressionist abstraction. It captures and conveys strong emotion through bold and distorted forms, intense colors, powerful brushstrokes, creating a striking and evocative visual experience. So the painting should make you uncomfortable. It was a relief to paint it on the other side of it, and it definitely helped me work through some stuff that even therapy wasn't getting me through. So that was sort of nice to, be able to put some of those more difficult. I don't like to be deeply angry. It's not my favorite space. I'm uncomfortable in anger.
You move away from that place pretty.
Yeah, not in toxic positivity in any way, right? Like I don't try to distort reality to see through rose-colored glasses. I just try to, when I'm sorting data, I try to look at the bright side that's also true And so I'm not distorting reality to see what's positive, but I am trying to focus my attention on what's good. But sometimes by not processing through some of those harder to deal with emotions, you can get stuck there. And I had found myself really stuck and struggling to trust again, and really seeing even trusted people as potentially dangerous. It wasn't just, just so much was taken, including my trust, and my intellectual property wasn't returned to me in an ethical way. And it was just so much stuff across, financially, just in every way, and the dishonesty and all of that. It just rolled me. I was rolled on every level, and there's no way to fix it or make it better or repair it. So that was an interesting space to be in, to be at a crossroads where, because I usually believe with human beings, there's always a way to, through compassion and empathy, see somebody else's point of view. Hopefully they see your point of view, and you come to a resolution that's positive and good. And this one was just so catastrophic that it was like a wasteland emotionally. Does the painting convey that? Because I feel like it does. But on to more peaceful thoughts. Sorry. So that one goes deep. If you want to do something else for day 14, that's why we have word prompts. All right, so we're back to abstract expressionism again, which you guys are maybe starting to recognize when you see it. Yes, I have a figurative element in here, right? So there is some abstract figuration in this painting, right? The fish, we know is fish. We see fish, but not fish like we've ever seen fish. And this is more like, this is how every single like wildlife fish picture feels to me. The way they move through water, and you can see the energy coming through the water. And the fact that they're like these presences darting through this alien world. And I often, as an artist, focus on the ripples and the effect that the fish has in the world around it. And I put him in this open mouth stance because there's the bit of this sort of raw nature kind of element to it, like the way the natural world is constantly in motion of like next meal, next moment, next life. Everything out there is just so incredibly alive. We played with contrasting colors, with texture. We created a focal point using the orange and hot colors, and then the movement and the curvilinear stroke in the water to represent that motion, and the way that we had a little color filled in the background. That's where we got there. Expressionist abstract and abstract expressionism. Failed this on the test a lot. Okay, I took notes though, so we have it. While expressionistic abstraction and abstract expressionism have some similarities, their difference lies in scope. Expressionistic abstraction is a more general term that encompasses various abstract styles with expressionistic tendencies, while abstract expressionism refers to a specific art movement with defined subcategories and historical content. Okay, so expressionist abstraction, that's the one that's actually from a subcategory of abstract expressionism. Is your mind bent yet? Mine was. It does lean more towards expressionism. It emphasizes emotional and psychological aspects of work. It can have a recognizable form, but they are often distorted or pulled into extreme abstraction, like I did with the face, right? It uses gestural brushwork, intense colors, a sense of movement, and it reflects an artist's inner turmoil. I feel like I nailed it. But the broader term can express various styles of abstract art that exhibit expressionistic tendencies. So abstract expressionism happened between the 1940s and 1950s. Abstract expressionism is characterized by a departure from recognizable forms or subjects, focusing on the act of painting itself. And in other words, you know how it's ASMR, you hear the brushwork, and how when you're painting, it just gets to be kind of fun to go brushy. It's the act of painting itself, the creation of the art, right? It's spontaneous, gestural, and it uses colors to evoke emotions or ideas. Abstract expressionism can be divided into two categories. Action painting, that's when you throw painting, pour painting, get crazy with the painting. You have an airplane turbine and you throw paint up in the airplane turbine. Artists that you will think of with that are Jackson Pollock and de Kooning, right? That focuses on the process of the paint. Now, color field painting like Rothko, we did some color field painting, and Newman, they go into large flat areas of color, right? Often with some geometric elements in it. That's the difference. Does that make a little more sense? Because that is like, we're halfway through. Would Van Gogh Starry Night fall into this category? Van Gogh Starry Night is Impressionism, and almost all of Expressionism comes out of Impressionism. But the entire Impressionistic movement led into this. When you go through the subcategories of art and you start looking at their definitions, what you'll start to really realize is one thing led to another, which is why I kind of said it was like, Twin Peaks. If you miss an episode, you're sort of lost. If you understand the step of conversation, when you get to the big red painting in the museum, you're less upset. You may not want to own the big red painting. You may not want to spend $56 million on the red painting, but you understand how the big red painting happened, right? You may move right on to the next gallery. But instead of standing there going, I don't even understand how this happened, you understand why it's in the museum and why it's important in the conversation of modern art and why a museum would bother to curate such a piece or donate it, or why Peggy Guggenheim cared, right? That's why. Because these thoughts couldn't have occurred unless the thought before it had happened. When you're painting subjectively, when you're painting figuratively, when you're painting what you see, right? We all kind of have a basic language for that. That's sort of like rock and roll and pop music and more broadly relatable music, but this becomes experimental jazz real quick. All right. Oh, I have to find my thing again. I'm so sorry. I went fish. Oh, I love this next one. This next one is my favorite. I love this one. So emotional. So emotional. Look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? We're back to abstracted landscape. Now, this is much more vibrant than it appears over here. There's much more purple and there's much more magenta over here. Well, if I come over here, you can probably.
Yeah. Well, let me just. So what it is. Not all the. Oops. Hold on.
See how much more vibrant it is. It's just all the colors over here are just a little bit dulled, but you'll see them in the calendar when I post the calendar, and you'll see them in the references, and you'll see that. I just want you to know that you can kind of see that to the side of me. See how that's brighter?
Go back over there. Which one was it?
Yeah, it's just a little bit.
Wrong one. Oops, wrong one. To get the right camera.
You're desaturating the area that was good.
Where's the there it is. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, so there's just more color over here.
I'll get
so this is again abstracted landscape, and we definitely have impressionism in this, right? So what we think of is there. Nice, babe. Thank you. Impressionism is work. I used very loose and expressive brush strokes through here to create this sort of clouds effect. I'm trying to create an unfocused and diffuse quality, and create an ambiguity of forms. Like, are the trees or the clouds? I don't know. Are they trees? You don't know. What are these dark shapes ominously in this sort of area that feels like wet or aquatic, but it might not be? The way the light reflects down and creates the corridor of light leading in is just very emotional. And the use of dynamic color and chromatic blacks for shadows, because this is actually purple, it's not black, enhances its abstract and expressive nature. So this is like, now we're getting into abstracted landscape here, right? Like, it's like, oh, this is really abstracted. But this does teach you a lot of important things about how traditional landscapes are created. This pulls and plays back and forth. Oh, I appreciate what you and John are doing, says Lenore. Thank you, Lenore. This is so fantastic. Okay, now the next one, I believe. Yes. Fire. It's this pile. As I reach out. because, you know, it's not an acrylic April unless we have a fire chicken. So for you guys who've done previous acrylic Aprils,
yes.
You're like, fire chicken. Okay, so I wanted to, there was some stuff I saw on the news and there was some things going on and I wanted to pay my reaction to that. And I wanted to kind of capture the energy and power of explosions and fire, just fires in general, and modernism. So this one is lyrical abstraction again. Did you guys recognize it? Because it has that feeling, that energy, that kind of sense of music and whimsy through this sort of curvilinear brush strokes. The way there's this playful kind of explosion of color out and the arc of it, right? Even the use of the palette knife paintings. And it's emotional and expressive. I use a lot of fluid brush strokes and I have a lot of energy and motion in the painting, right? And then, you know, we're trying to capture the energy of fire and the dynamism of it and just the elementalness of it. So I'm able to create that through color theory, going from my cool reds to my yellows to my hot whites, and that's what makes it feel like this is like the most energetic part of it. And then into that black space again kind of conveys that sort of kind of creational feeling to the whole piece. And I used a little bit of geometric abstraction to create a cool pop art floral piece. And you can do that. You can play back to abstract concepts, right? The flattening of objects, the way objects relay in space, the way we simplify or express objects in a non-realistic manner. And so if you'll remember in the first one, I had the little patterning coming down the side. This brings us back into that. And then the sort of flow and fall of everything, plus the play of color, right? We've got another color field kind of element happening here. Are these terms starting to make sense when you're looking at paintings and you're going, oh, this is color field. And there's some geometric abstraction. And this painting, enjoy this because I'm going to go, they're abstract flowers, not roses. And then they obviously ended up being abstracted roses. That just happened to me. Sometimes stuff happens with the, you know, floral abstraction on the way to geometry, right? But this ends up being a very strong and powerful point of there. And yet it's sweet, it's whimsical, and there's an element, even though we have so much natural shape here, there's an element of two-dimensionality in it. And the way the pink and the turquoise play off of each other become important in the painting. And the fact that we have little pops of orange that are coming through. So the turquoise and the orange kind of pop and play off of each other. So that was day...
Beetlejuice.
18.
Beetlejuice.
No. Okay. Hardest day. Because I had to do one. Jean-Michel Basquiat, whose name I will say wrong in the video at least twice because I am me. Neo-expressionism. The hardest type of abstract, in my opinion. Controversial. The movement is riddled with misogyny. I recognize that. But it also is marked by its strong sense of honesty. And it gave artists a chance to express things directly to the viewer that hadn't been done before. So, there is figurative abstraction here that you can see working in, but it's definitely got the raw emotional kind of conveyance that you would expect in neo-expressionism, the putting in words and removing words that are important, the coming in. I dealt with, I don't generally deal in politics at all, just because it's so divisive and people can't have conversations with each other and not get in fights, and I don't want people to fight. I did, because this was about my feelings about home and stuff I was going through in my path from where I was to there. I did talk about like book banning and how I hate it. I hate it with the fire of 1,000 suns. I don't actually personally consider that political. I just consider that to be what any artist would feel about anything. but that's just me and I'm not in charge of anybody else. That's just my honest and raw feelings. And so I put that in there, and my fears, and I love this, the birds, but they stopped being birds and I wrote birds. I suffered through this painting, but here's I didn't want to do any appropriation. And knowing that this was so a tip of the hat to Basquiat, I did put in this face, which is very reminiscent from those paintings, but I tried to do it for my own thing. And the thing to realize when you're looking at this is these are my struggles and my difficult time and my secret expression to the viewer. But neo-expressionism talks about more intense societal ills than I personally experience. So what I tried to do to be inspired by it is just be truthful about my own struggles and my own concerns in those areas, and not in an effort to be neo-expressionist, pull another artist's work into it unduly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where it is. So if you're like, hopefully you can see the influence there and you guys have fun. And what I hope in this one that you guys will do is you put your own words and your own story into the work. You can certainly go with mine. I think it will be relatable for many, but I love the poppies. These were very Dorothy related poppies, Wizard of Oz poppies. And then it also pulled to the poppies that my mom and I found in France. And this is the hope of the house that I'm hoping to have in Ireland. We're in midway on our visa. We're about to be done with that. And then we get the kids in school and then hopefully solve the housing stuff, because there's a housing shortage. So, but we're almost there. I think April will be there. All right. Neo-expressionism, the hardest type of abstract. And by the way, if you've never ever been introduced to this, I highly suggest taking a look. It is different than you expect. There was a strong German school that also happened, but I just happen to love the American school. So that's just me. That's my bias. Atmospheric abstraction. That kind of almost makes sense now that you've heard the other terms, doesn't it? Atmospheric abstraction. So this particular piece, we work on emotional brushwork and interaction of color and texture. And it's all about how the color and brushwork creates atmosphere and a sense of the world, right? Because, you know, sometimes you guys get so in your head about painting clouds that you don't paint clouds, but weirdly we paint atmospheric effects all the time, and we just don't know we have. So this piece is about actually realizing that in the surface, and the way that brushstroke directionality and value creates a sense of what we assume an object is, like, because these are curved up and they're lighter at the top and darker at the bottom, and we have this sort of energetic little white textural stuff that feels maybe a bit wave-like, and because the forms and values and diffusion through here, we feel like it's kind of an atmosphere cloud-like, and that's how that plays against each other, you know. And here's the thing, the nice thing about this is even though it has these elements, it still leaves enough room for you guys to use your imagination to decide what you see in the world. So that's what you'll be learning out of this. Boy, we are going, okay, controversial and not in order. Controversial.
Why is it?
Okay, so I know in the Facebook group we don't approve nudes, or if we do approve them, it's on a nude by nude basis. And that is really because
on a nude by nude basis.
My idea of everybody's idea of what is too far in the nude space ends up being very subjective. If you want to talk about a subjective place in art, when is the nude a nude? And so I wanted to do a figure painting that, because it's such an important part of abstract art, that tipped into that, but that stayed very non-descriptive, right? So this is abstract figuration, and you know, I did a nod to the Rubenesque style, but I avoided being specific about anatomy. So that's that line that I walk when I'm doing something, right? Like when we tell you to put glam shells on the mermaids. Am I a prude? No, I'm not. I just think Facebook tends to ding a lot of things, and then the group gets in trouble if you get a lot of reports. And then I got to write Facebook all kinds of apologies. And that's why we stop some topics of art to go through, not because I don't think they're cool. I think all types of art are cool. I don't think Facebook is always cool. So that's why. But I feel like this one should be able to go through. And this is sort of the level that I'm talking about generally. Now, the thing to notice about this is that we have this full figure, that's the Rubenesque, reclining female figure. And it's played in bright and cheerful colors, with cool colors being at the top and warm colors being at the bottom, right? Kind of pulling this sense of light by having the figure be faceless and almost formless, right? Like the way that we played with form. It creates a sense that the viewer can be the figure or relate to someone as the figure. I use definitely the Rubenesque kind of feeling about that. And that, if you're not familiar, goes back to a Baroque school of painter. Paul Rubens just tended to feed his girls, right? It wasn't like the cover of a Vogue thing. I'm not making a comment on I think every single body type is a valid body type. But I think that he was just more known for painting people as they lived instead of in their idealized thing. And I felt like the way that we use beautiful colors and line and the flow of line kind of created a body positivity in the piece that I really, really liked. It is a really good example of abstract figuration, right? Now, again, group approvals. I know what that's like. I'm really sorry for that. It's not like Mark Zuckerberg talks to me or asks my opinion. Moderation. So there's very little I can do about that, but I don't think this will get us into trouble. I'm not ostensibly changing the group rules. I wish I could. The patrons can post whatever they like if you just need that group. But and no, if you ever need a group to share a nude that we can't approve in the group because it's maybe more realistic nude or maybe speaks to a more extreme viewpoint of nude figuration, I will help you find a group to share it in. Because I want you to be able to share your art, even if I can't. And again, remember, we have all ages. So this was another thing. This was a figure painting, a figurist painting that I felt like, I wouldn't mind any of my kids seeing or any kids seeing in my home. So it allowed for a lot of ages and different viewpoints to be comfortable with the subject matter. So we touched into it, but we didn't go crazy. This created so much just drama between John and I.
I like
we
this
had
one.
to edit this. So if you do the school has extra videos where I talk about like immediately after how I feel after creating it, right? Like just an emotional brain dump of how I feel after creating it. And because John made a comment about Russian mid-century modern Sputnik, was it what you had referred to?
Yeah, it was just.
Then I was saying, but you have to. Anyways, somehow the conversation invoked Godwin's law to the nth degree, so we had to edit it a bit. We edited a bit, but the idea is that you cannot know the painter from the painting. Was the idea that we were having. Like, painting doesn't intrinsically make you a good person, and sometimes people can paint that aren't great people. And a painting doesn't, even though all painting is self-portraiture, it doesn't necessarily reveal all aspects of the artist. This is, again, lyrical abstraction with some geometric abstraction in as counterplay with a tip to mid-century modernism, which you can see in the kind of rust orange, and the color palette is very abstraction again, but in a minimalist style. So this is minimalism, but with lyrical abstraction. These terms are hopefully starting to make more sense. Minimalism is like, I'm leaving as much out as I can. It gets more minimal than this in the journey, but this was a tip to all of those things. So that's what you're learning there. And I love the idea of combining lyrical abstraction with mid-century modernism. It was just, too much. Okay, so I think the things are out of order again. So Oh, I did those sort of reversed. This is 21 and the figure is 22. So I got to go to 23. I just did them slightly out of order, but you got it. You'll see the calendar. You'll know. That's why I did a calendar. All right, day 23. Abstract floral. So a little more figurative in the floral. Like we have objects we recognize like the flowers, they feel like flowers, and the butterflies. But the strong sense of color in the fact that we chose not to focus in details on so many elements lets us call this an abstracted floral. I was loose and very expressive in my representation of flowers, right? Like, so these are just like curved brush strokes and they only come together because of the linear outer lining. It also has a bit of, if you see it in a couple places, a little bit of lyricism in it, right? A little bit of musicality, a little bit of motion, and a little bit of expressiveness. And hopefully you're starting to see those things when you see a musicality in a piece, when you see a brutalism in a piece, when you see energy in a piece, or you see kind of a unbridled, free-flowing expression in a piece, and start to relate to those terms, not as stuffy art terms, but as a cool language that lets you explain to another person what the heck you were doing in your painting, right? That's all those terms are. They're not supposed to be up here crazy terms that are hard to understand, that feel like a secret code. They're words that mean real things in art. Right? If you say art is dynamic, it has a real meaning. If you say art is expressive, or if you say art is musical or lyrical, if you say art is angry and rough and brutalist, these have real meanings that become schools of art, but they're also just how artists express themselves. It's our art language. So I hope at the end of this month, these words and terms become super personal to you. Make sure that I've got the right one next. Yes, I do. Oh, I love the next run of them. They're so much fun. I love this one. It was so weird, and I enjoyed painting it very much. Isn't that lovely? So that's getting back to some very pure abstracted art, isn't it? This is very, there's no figurative here, right? This is very, very much in that space. This is a textural abstract, and I used a bunch of different techniques through here. I think one of the interesting plays was the play against the cool kind of beige and this white raised surface ended up creating a lot of fun space and creating these central like focal over here with the cool greens, and it gives the sense of nature and natural elements without speaking specifically to natural elements. So it's like the way nature feels or the way I feel about nature. And then I played a little bit with color by putting in a little bit of peach and red through the piece. I very much love the energy. This is very energetic knife work through here, right? Which I thought was just a lot of fun to do. And by the point you've done the other knife work, it should be pretty chill to do. Oh my goodness, we're almost coming to the end of the month. I've already feel like I've painted it again. What are you going to learn in this? Minimalism! This is minimalism. Now, you guys might feel like you recognize some of this. This is very kind of, I wanted to do something that was hot right now, that people were excited about right now, in this sort of black line on white or minimally colored surfaces in figurative spaces, but almost the figure in symbolism, right? Because this isn't a face, this is the symbol of a face. The kind of little L nose and the curved eye and the simple U shape of the face. This is as minimally I can express a face as possible. But then I also sort of counterbalance the feeling of feminism and nature by putting this simplistic and minimal abstracted line work through here that's botanical, right? So I've got the flower and all of these things, but they are as simplified as I can make it and still have them be a little figurative. The fact that we're white space against this fluid color, and this is again that fluidity, that action painting. We did a lot of wet into wet painting in the acrylic, which we don't traditionally do, but see, in abstract, you don't have to care what we traditionally do anymore. You just do what you want to do because it's abstract and it's your rules, not the world's rules. Just because we have a language doesn't mean we have to follow rules. So that's how she ended up being. And I really actually liked her. Da, 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 da. And then I got a little intense with the palette knife. So I wanted to do another abstracted landscape, but I wanted it to be rough and more textural and a stronger play of color, so that the colors are unreal and unexpected in the spaces, and that there's a bit of a color play between the purples and the yellows and golds and this almost dynamic aqua in the center. The line work that implies the waterfall is just a lot of fun. And you're actually going to learn, we talk a lot about blending with palette knives. We do some blend work with palette knives to create mist and effect, which is something different than you've done. And then just the rough raised texture of everything, how the palette knife was able to express the different areas of the painting was really enjoyable. Boom, Sherpa like, you like the last ones? Hold my beer. You guys are the best. All right, this one is delightful, just wonderful. Okay. I actually have a way I intended for this to be, but you could, we talk a lot about how we don't sign certain abstractions because the viewer may relate to the piece differently and want to hang it differently. This was one that John actually got into because it had such a romantic feeling to it. So we've done a very abstracted piece. You know, it is very not subjective, and yet it tells a story of a garden. It's you know, it's abstract expressionism for sure. We have action painting in here. But this pointillism of color next to color, right? Because that's what we've done here is a little pointillism, the color next to color. And yet somehow the feeling of a garden or a wedding arbor, John kept saying it felt like a wedding to him, or just the most feminine space. And so through using our abstract language, we can talk about things that are masculine or feminine in a broader sense of the term. And it's really rather lovely to, you know, see that in art, to be able to say, oh, this is, you know, naturalistic, this is industrial, these are just words that describe elements of the piece, right? They're not words that are put on you to define you, right? These are words that are just ways to explain what the piece feels like to you and what it evokes. Now, it could evoke something entirely different in somebody else, and that would be okay. This is one of those pieces where, especially large, and actually you'll see me talk about this a lot during the series, that I'm going to, when we get settled in Ireland, I'm going to redo a lot of these pieces large for my home, which I will share with you guys once I get them up. I'm going to reset my art when I get there. It's an artist's way of nesting in. I reset all my art. Because let me tell you, shipping it's going to take a minute and be expensive. Ah, this one was so much fun for me. This was abstracted landscape, and I took pointillism and these concepts of pointillism, I think, as far as I could by putting large bloops of color next to each other to create this. And if you've painted with me for any minute, I feel like you've seen, because it feels like a little bit like a sky, doesn't it? It feels like you might be at a beach at dawn or sunset somewhere wonderful and warm. Was I watching far away? Maybe. I don't know. No, it wasn't out yet. But it definitely had that feel of, you know, just being really warm in these aquatic blues and this distant sort of world. And there's a sense of deconstructed realism here, isn't it? I've taken the realism, but I've deconstructed what makes it. And so that's a term that you could use in a painting like this, deconstructed realism. Using thick areas of color. It's definitely an abstract landscape painting. And I intentionally made the brushwork obvious, right? And that was another way to be expressive and abstracted in the piece, was to be obvious with the way I constructed it. Like when you look at photorealism or you look at hyperrealism, the artist tries not to be obvious about the medium it was created with, or the brushwork, or the tools used. They try to hide it and create a sense of realism that is grander than real life. In this, we went the opposite way. This is like that salad where they give you a wedge and some bacon and some blue cheese and some tomatoes, and they're like, it's a wedge salad, it's deconstructed. And you're like, It's salad I have to make myself. But it's like that. It has that feel. Oh, are you guys going to love this one? I hope so. I hope you're going to love this one. I loved it. It was one of my favorites. I kind of saved because I know when you guys get to the end of the month, you get a little tired. Do you love him? Do you love him with your whole soul? Do you love him so much you want to take him home and give him a name and kiss him on the nose and boop his nose? I do. So you guys ask me a lot to do artwork from my own style and my own kind of stuff. And if you've seen the aquatic horses and everything, many, many, many of you have asked me over the years to do that. And I had this opportunity to dip back into that. I'm going to give you my personal art statement on this. When I started getting back into fine art or traditional art and wanting to get into more traditional art spaces, because I have to be obstinate and weird, like have pink hair and just not follow any rules, I decided to take a subject that is seen often as commercial and not serious in art circles, which is equine subjects, horses, right? Horses tend to be, as a subject in the art world, very commercial. It's easy to sell horse paintings. There's a lot of venues for artists who are equine artists to work and show and exhibit. But sometimes when you bring that subject into fine art spaces, they can get discounted. So I had done a series of equine subjects, and I tried to present them in a way. I used the myth of Bucephalus, and I tried to present them in the way of the heroic myth, and I put them in insane or absurd situations or alarming situations, stuff to give the viewer an ease. Like I had a horse falling through space to an ocean. And I often use this expressive and strong abstraction of space to create the horse. It's just really my favorite. And then I did this thing where I'd be very abstract, emotional. It was very just like, how expressive and emotional could I be? But then I would tighten up in spaces like the eye or the nose, and especially the eye. And this is really specifically an eye I had started to create, and that, you know, how Jasmine Beckwith has an eye. We all have an eye. I do in the school paint this eye again and go over it in more in-depth detail. If, you know, you guys needed that, that might be a good resource. The school should be open before the 1st when Acrylic April starts. So if you're like, I have trouble finding things on the internet, I can't find stuff on YouTube, and it's tough to do the website, school might be an option for you. And also if you want the extra videos and the extra stuff. The main videos, free, YouTube. The main stuff on the website, free as always. The traceables will be free. That stays the same, you know. We will try to get the books, have the Kindles free if we can, or as close to it as we can. But the print books obviously cost money. And the school, you know, I had to hire people to put it up. So it's probably going to be a little bit of money. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think it probably will, though. But the regular program, as you have done it for the last 5 years, which is 150 paintings now, will remain free. So if you guys are wondering about that, that's what's going on. Yep. Last one. Who's been here a minute is going to squee now.
Who's been here a minute?
Because I just couldn't not. I have a little cubism and a little surrealism and a little color theory and have a little touch of the Monte. Do you love him? So my very first painting on YouTube was an owl. Whole weird story. If you've been here a minute, 7 years ago, I painted an owl. First painting uploaded, first painting I ever taught, first thing I ever did. And since then, I have painted this subject a lot. You know, I have totally gotten into this quite often. And you know, the thing about owls symbolically is that, you know, depending on where you come from, we think of them as strong and independent. We think of them as nocturnal and wise. They tend to be spiritual. There's a lot of mythology around them, you know. And so my notes I took down is the owl within the painting and its interaction. See these colors, the way they play against each other? This is about perception and understanding, the distortion of the eyes, the way that each field radiates against each other, the division in half, the duality of things, the nature of things. This really is about that nothing is all one thing. People are not all anything. Everything is sort of a spectrum of experience. And my experience, your experience, these are very different from each other, even though they're the same, even though we have a language. The way you experience this painting may be very different from how I experience creating it. The way I experience being me be very different than how you experience being you. And even within that, there's just this sort of polarity within all of us, where we're just never all one thing. We're never like little switches or zeros and ones. We're kind of complex little compositions. And I loved the way his eyes were radiating out and looking. There was, again, this sort of groove-tastic little cubism about him, that play to it. I didn't want to do anything Picasso, but I definitely did want to get back into that space. The texturing, the patterning, he is, I think, the best way to close out Acrylic April and really bring it all home. I love him. I love him so much. It was just a lot of fun to paint. And it was fun to go back to the beginning. And I think as artists, that's something that we really just need to do. And is this the last one? I don't want to be done after this work. It's going to make me sad, says Sienna Doodles. Yeah. No, I get that. Doodles, I like that very much. So this is the program. Starts April 1st to April 30th. There will be a new video with a premiere so we can chat, released every day. Understand, I may be moving to Ireland in April, but I will still be there talking with you. So you will not be alone. There is a book. Should be released before April 1st. If it's not, it's going to be in the first week of April because it is written. There are the other 3 books or 4 books from Acrylic April. No, 3 books. There'll be 4 total Acrylic April books from 2020 to 2023 released in the next 3 weeks. This one should be done before, but that's just the speed of Amazon publishing. There is a school that is a sequential way to go through the program. It has some of the extra stuff I've talked about. I will put a lot of this on the website with the paintings. So if for whatever reason you cannot do that, that's okay. I don't want to hide the information from you. And I will also try to post these explanations and these thoughts again with the paintings as I share them to announce the day. Get in with the newsletter. The newsletter will give you the complete brush list, the simplified brush list, the materials, all of that again. I'll try to send out a weekly one to let you know what paintings are coming up in that week as a general reminder. I will start scheduling them out today. The whole month will be scheduled out and probably in our calendar and findable by tomorrow. And there's a store. The store will have a kit. Is that enough? I don't know. Did I do enough? I'm not sure.
That covers it though, but man, I'm excited about all this.
And I will be doing another color mixing video and a palette knife video before Acrylic April starts. So you guys are feeling very versed in that. If you want to keep with the tight knit yellow, it's okay. You can kind of see from this year, it just means that maybe this will be more tight knitty than lemony. That's all. This isn't, where we have to be so specific with the landscape or the colors or anything to get the results or the understanding. Oh, thank you so much, Celtic Peasant. I appreciate that so much. Were there any questions I needed to get to before we went or anything we needed to share? Or I hope, listen, even if you don't like abstract, come this month, come do this. The lessons are actually much shorter than previous years. Some of them are 20 minutes. Most of them are 40 to 30 minutes long. So the videos themselves are not particularly long. It's not about perfectionism, so you won't have that pressure on you. You're going to learn a lot about composition because I have to talk about why I'm making these decisions. Why did I do this? And I'm having to share this with you as I work. So you're going to understand a lot about how design and process works from it. And you're going to come out with a lot of art skills and concepts that you didn't have going in. It's just going to make you enjoy the world of art 1,000% more. Am I going to convert every one of you to an abstract painter? Probably not. But will you enjoy the world and seeing abstract, and maybe even in your very figurative paintings, maybe in your still lifes, you'll abstract something out, or you'll play with color or light or do something unexpected. Anytime we get ourselves out of our comfort zones, we do stretch as artists and become stronger for it.
This has been a really fun year to do with you.
Oh, what are my thoughts on using Canva paper? I think you mean canvas paper. I think that it's thirsty. And so sometimes that can be frustrating for the artist, but it's not bad intrinsically. Like into the wet and wet techniques, it might actually stabilize those in an easier way and have better flow, but it might absorb your paint very quickly. But we're not doing so much blending this year that it will impact you. I think that Frederick's does a nice canvas pad that's actually canvas. And there are pads out there that are textured paper. That are gessoed. You can also gesso or seal your paper again. So there's definite ways to do that.
And then if you're getting emails from our website, then that is our newsletter.
Yeah, and I do think this is a program that's going to be good for first-time abstract painters. Thank you, Benny Bishop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think if you've never painted abstract before, come with me. You're going to love it. And if you need the extra help, because it's so weird and it's unusual, there's that school, there's that book, there's that extra help. That's there. That's going to make all the difference, right? Like if you guys haven't seen the mini books, those are step-by-step pictures of each step of the video that matches the timestamps. And Marie, thank you so much. Right? It matches the timestamps. It's written out instructions. It says what materials are used in that exact step, and it shows you a picture of where we're going to in the step. That's why I do that. That's why I started writing these books for this program. I'm so glad they're going to be published. Now, I think the reason I did an in-print book, right, it's going to come in hardback and paperback. And again, it'll be Barnes & Nobles, not just Amazon. I'll release all the places that it's going to be at. It'll be an ebook. It will be a Kindle book. It will be a hardback or paperback. But think about how you're trying to use references or screens. One of the problems people had with the mini books, downloading them and printing them, was one, the use of the printer ink has gotten so crazy and so expensive. 2, where do you put it, right? You can't have it on a screen if you do it in the old version, right? So this gives you some choices so you can have it next to you and go through it as a physical, tangible object. Yeah. And then if you need the school is there, and school has, like, I go over techniques again, or I talk about concepts again, or I talk about mindset again, and that gives you some extra. And we're going to get it up as soon as, again, my eldest, I've contracted my oldest kid to do it, and, working with families. Will I come on YouTube real time after I'm settled in Ireland? Kimberly, thank you so much. Joe Scott wants to know if I'm going to come on YouTube in real time after I've settled in Ireland. Right away, as soon as I have internet connection.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So here's where I'm at on the move. Our company is opened over there, and opening our company over there is going to let us get global. We're not global right now with our art supply store, but we're hoping to be. It might take us a year to do it, but we're not going to give up on it. But that will open up the EU and everything. Also, and it will mess with time zones, but I'll be able to be there for you at the times you're used to. And so that's open and that's going. We are waiting for, I have to be able to work when I'm in Ireland. John has to be able to work. So we're waiting on the correct visa for us to be able to do that. And that is in process. And they tell us anything from like a week to 2 weeks.
Despite what anyone else tells you, when you make YouTube videos, it is work. And it is the government does view it that way.
Helen considers this work.
Self-employed.
Like, are you a working artist? Yeah, you're working.
You have to have a visa to be here.
Got to have a visa to be here and do all that. Cian Doodles is like, can you pack us in your luggage? I hope so. Remember, the retreat this year in the Poconos is probably the last U.S.-based retreat I'm going to do for a minute. I'm doing it with my mom. You can find that on the website if you want to see me in person. I'll be flying back for that in the fall. I will maybe next year be doing a European one, or I don't know. Just keep for that. But in April, I'm relocating. I've got to get the kids in school, and we've got to get a house, and there definitely is a shortage of houses, and we have to be in a rental for a year so we can establish that we're real people
and get credit to buy a house.
So we're going to be over there for a year renting. And so it's like everywhere. Every place has stuff. Everybody has stuff. That's the stuff. Am I willing to do that stuff? Yes. I am so excited to live in Ireland. I cannot. Have you noticed that I'm chatty?
You got a little bit of stuff to say.
We have some stuff to say, and we're chatty, and we like to meet people. And we're very gabby people. And I am looking forward to sitting down and meeting never a stranger again. And I am looking forward to knowing my neighbors. And I am looking forward to, I don't know, hiking. I'm not really generally a hiker, but they've got no fire ants, so, or bitey things. So I think I might be a hiker there. So that's going to be going on in April, but I will stay in touch with you. And your videos will keep coming. I'll be live before Acrylic April starts. And then when I'm in Ireland, we're settled, we have internet connections. Oh, thank you, Patricia, guest. I appreciate that so much. And we have the cameras hooked up, and hopefully all the camera equipment doesn't break and we don't have to replace it. When we get there, we are going to be live again, and we may even try to take you around with us to see the things we're seeing. I don't know. We have some cool plans. So, store, books, art retreat. You'll be seeing news articles because we're doing press releases. I'll be sharing those because there's a bunch of press news coming out about all the books. I sign up for the newsletter, the materials. Where's the store at? Do we know?
Let me go double check it, because now you've got me making sure I know where it is. It is at store.theartsherpa.com.
So,
whoa, is it falling over?
Is there a kit there? And here's what.
Kits are coming, I think, tomorrow. Well, kits will be up. Or maybe later tonight. I'm not sure.
We put a lot of thought about things and you guys about the store, so you'll know that you're considered when you see how it's set up and the prices and everything. You'll be like, oh, they thought about me.
Yeah, we actually really considered you guys a lot, and how we were able to work with our partners to create pricing structures that were, competitive and sustainable and serviceable, so we can get you guys really good products at a good price. And so you'll see, it's awesome.
Linda Beaudry wants to know, where can I find info about the school you mentioned? So make sure you sign up for our newsletter, and here's how I will announce the school when it's open. It will be in the community tab on YouTube. I will put it on the Facebook page, in the Facebook groups, both the Acrylic April Facebook group, because remember we have a special Acrylic April Facebook group, and the Art Sherpa official group, where you can still share your Acrylic April paintings. You can share them in both places. If you're doing the tutorials with me, share them both places. I will also send it out in the newsletter. So I will try to announce through those strategies, groups, Facebook page, community tab here, newsletter. I think it's a good idea to be signed up for the newsletter, because I generally have links and stuff in there and extra information. I don't put ads in my newsletter. My mom's newsletter is so pretty, and my newsletter is like just the facts, ma'am. It's like the dragnet of newsletters. Here's a video, here's a picture, here's some materials. This is where we're gonna be. I don't know, words. But it's not like one of those newsletters that's like spammy, poppy, uppy, or any of that, or like law. It's just a newsletter, so just the facts. So the newsletter, I think, is a good way to get that information, and you never know, maybe we'll drop a coupon in the newsletter for the store.
Oh yeah, we'll be doing that stuff for sure.
We'll do stuff to make opening the newsletter worthwhile on occasion, right?
Yeah, especially as we get deals and things.
Where is the Poconos? Asked Angie. Well, that is in Pennsylvania. It is in these mountains in Pennsylvania above Scranton. And if you think of it, if you remember the movie Dirty Dancing, the little hotel they stayed at, that was a Poconos resort. Well, the retreat is in one of those.
And we're in the Delaware Water Gap, right on the Delaware River, I believe.
Yeah,
and
actually,
And it's so beautiful.
It's
there's
really
s'mores, pretty. And it's very, very picturesque.
It's 4 days and 5 nights, or 5 nights and 4 days. It's one of those. 4 nights, 5 days.
I think that sounds right.
It says it on the thing.
It says that sounds.
And when you go to the store where you buy the ticket, before you go, the price, open it up and see everything. Because we pick you up from the airport. It's all inclusive. We feed you. We provide the paint. You paint with, you're not with me for like an hour. You're with me all day.
The entire
from
time.
Breakfast
all
to
of it.
dinner.
It's like you get all Sherpa all the time, and it's all painting.
You will be so done with me.
And
we paint so much. You're going to be like, I think I painted all I ever want to paint again.
Talk to other people who have gone. We pick you up from the airport, bring you paint, drop you back off with a bunch of stuff.
Paint, eat.
Yeah,
so just
paint,
imagine hobbits planned an art retreat.
That's it.
That's exactly what it is. And my mom's going to be there because this is a way that we can visit. And so we'll be swapping the classes. We rate each other. We sing. It's just a weird, goofy thing. Like we go after each other. There's s'mores. There's snacks. There's no end to the snackies.
Yes,
right?
There's
brekkies and snackies and lunchies and num-nums and din-dins and s'moresies.
And right, you just ask our team and we get it for you. You don't have to get up or do it. We bring you water, we bring you snacks, bring sodas and cookies and stuff.
You can drive to the retreat. Yeah, and we even have a ticket, like if you're not staying at the hotel, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and we have a ticket for guests because the resort is that. It's like one of those Dirty Dancing resorts.
And know this, there's not a closer hotel that you could book cheaper. It's in the woods. So like
we locked in, so we didn't have to raise the retreat price with all the crazy inflation. You know how like dinner is now double. So we locked that in.
Yeah, it's like the oldest.
That's the other reason I'm not sure I can do it again, because I would have to double the cost of this retreat to do it again. So that until inflation gets calm, this might be the last one for a minute, for a second. So
it's on that PGA golf.
Yeah.
It's on
and there's a river and there's kayaking and there's glamping tents and
very
they
famous golf
do
course.
Bows and arrows and hikes and all that stuff. So if you want to bring more, we have a way for you to bring your family, and they can eat with us. They just don't paint with us. They stay in the hotel and they eat with us. They just don't paint with us. And when you look back, you'll be like, man, she's not even charging that much.
Everything is included, Angie. You don't need to show up except for yourself. We give you paint and brushes and supplies.
Yeah.
And we are handicap prepared for handicap equipped. The hotel has all the services. We make sure that we have buses and things to transport you there. Like, you have to be, like they're generally.
We had a lady. This. We were so inclusive. We had a lady bring parrots that she hatched.
Baby parrots. The baby parrots.
That's how inclusive we are.
We had to go see the burbs.
We all saw the burbs, but she was, because we took care of everything else. All you got to bring is yourself and some stuff to wear.
And your baby bird if you want.
And your baby bird. I don't know. She works out with the hotel, right? And there's coffee. Like, we're civilized. There's coffee. And, you eat with us, but there's also other restaurants and other stuff on the property is ginormous.
And even if you forget your toothbrush and deodorant, they have it at the hotel, so don't worry. We'll get you covered.
Yeah, deodorant's always good to bring. I bring deodorant. Do we sign up for the newsletter? John, do they sign up for the newsletter? How do they do
join the website.
If you have any trouble with that, support at theartsherpa.com.
Yes.
We have a very kind team of little art angels that will come and help you. Oh, tons of hugs for everybody. I hope you guys like this. Thank you so much. Guys, from day 1 to day 30, I really hope to change how a lot of people feel about abstract, but I also hope to get a lot of you guys that maybe haven't been painting for a minute painting again, because what abstract definitely doesn't ask you to do is be perfect. It doesn't want that of you. All it wants out of you is for you to feel and share how you feel with the painting, which you can do because you got that, right? So it's not about perfect brush strokes or perfect technique. It's about emotion and how as artists on a raw and honest level, we express that emotion. So for sure, you guys are gonna love it. Why does the store not recognize my patron login?
Okay, I was just responding to that. Okay,
Teresa,
so
I don't know.
Here's what it is that patrons, if you are a patron member,
we didn't forget you. I promise.
No, we didn't. This was actually going out in an email. If you're a patron and you're a member of the old email, the old website, don't worry. Mm-hmm. What you're going to have an account. What you'll be able to do is go over and sign up for an account on the new website, and we cancel the old one, and everything goes nice and smooth. There's no problem. So as soon as you sign up on the new website, we generally automatically go through and do this process for you.
Well, patrons get a discount.
Yeah, and patrons get a discount
at the art store too.
Yeah, so
at a certain level, at 25 and up, patrons that are 25 and up get a discount.
Yeah, and the discount we're still trying to work on what all that's going to be.
I don't know what it is, but it is.
And all patrons are going to get coupon codes and discounts and all sorts of things.
Yeah, as we go.
And so this is, when you're ready to go migrate over there, you can choose whichever patronage you want, and we can help you migrate. If you need help, it's support@theartsherpa.com. There we go.
There we go. And if you want to know the cost of anything for any art supplies, check out the art store. If you want to know about the retreat, that's over at the store on theartsherpa.com.
Yep.
And that'll tell you there. But open the ticket. It's just like a little picture of me with some food. Open it up, and then it gives you the itinerary. Then that cost makes sense. Actually, my mom cruises and she said it's like a steal. So
yeah, it is.
I don't know.
It was a really, really good
It's
deal.
all an experience. And we have a free meetup too. So at the end of it, we have a free meetup where people can come just meet and hang out and meet me. So, and hopefully mom this time too.
One more time also from the top, the school. The school is opening up here on our website probably within the next few days to a week. And it will show up as school.theartsherpa.com, I think. But you'll find a link on our website, and you'll be able to sign up for it.
We'll send out a newsletter.
Yeah.
The past watercolor traceables are on the website for free download as everything else is. And I just received, because like I paint on what you paint on. So I design them originally and then I create the line and wash for them. And then I paint on your final thing so that yours and mine match exactly. And I just got those. So those will be out pretty soon. I'm pretty excited about those. Those will probably, if we get those done, those will even release over April. And I don't know any other questions about, cause I know you guys have, personal questions like dietary questions, personal questions, stuff like that. We're pretty flexible about what everybody needs. And we've been able to meet everybody's needs so far. And how do I handle being a perfectionist? Well, first, I think the most important thing is to reframe perfectionism and recognize that what it is that you have a clear and bright vision of what you'd like things to be. Now, in a balanced world, that clear and ideal vision of how you'd like things to be in your painting is a wonderful light post for you to guide yourself. Where being a perfectionist becomes hard or painful is when our humanity, or the fact that we maybe can see and feel at a level that we can't yet execute, when we become very negative and unkind with ourselves. I'm actually starting to feel it's not the perfectionism that's the problem. It is the critical self-thinking that's the problem. It's that we are unkind to ourselves when we don't reach that ideal. I think when people can organize the whole kitchen and spot clean everything, I think they're brilliant. I think they're amazing. I think sometimes personalities that are, minded in that way just tend to suffer because sometimes they don't realize that even if on that day they're not perfect, they're still good enough and they're still valid. So the nice part of abstract art is it lets you recognize that there isn't a perfection to achieve in it. And that kind of relieves you of some of that goal seeking. But I would say the number one thing is listen to how you're talking to yourself when you don't achieve that idealized goal, right? That dream that you're going for, that perfect painting, that perfect eye, that perfect brush stroke, which is in you. Maybe it's not every day it's in you, right? Like think of gymnasts. They don't land it every time. They land sometimes, and we all get excited when they land, right? We give them points, but not every day is a perfect day. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes notes go sour. Sometimes brush strokes go astray. And it's not releasing that goal of idealism, but it's releasing the criticism that we have inside of ourselves. So imagine that you're talking to something or someone you love so very, very much, and when you would never, ever, ever want them to hurt or suffer. That's how you're supposed to talk to yourself when you're guiding yourself to reaching those ideals and you're not quite getting there yet. It's about compassion to yourself. I am really glad to be doing this. I hope to see all of you at Acrylic April this year. I'm so grateful for everybody. I can't believe it's year 5. That's 150 paintings. If you count 2019, which is mayhem, that's the only one that doesn't have a book because
it may get booked. We may book it someday.
I don't even know how we would do it.
We would just put it together. It would be a comic book.
But it was the first year I tried to do that. And I did that one all just live to see how it worked out. We pre-painted. It was just mayhem.
You were like, what are we going to do? I'm going to paint live every day for 30 days.
We're organized now.
Why are you going to do that? I don't know.
You guys who want to have the images and everything to print out early, that will be available to you this year. It's the number one thing I've been asked about because I know a lot of people just need to get ready early to be okay. I've got videos on how to do a daily painting and how to succeed at it. All of the books talk about it a great deal, But we have videos about how to do a daily painting. We have videos on how to do a color chart. We have the color mixing videos that are already going. There are resources for you guys to already partake in, and I will be doing another color mixing video and a palette knife video and probably some abstract techniques that we'll be running into, like how to float the white in a wet field, that kind of stuff, so that you guys have some prep work before we have to start. That way you can just enjoy the journey. And remember, the best thing about Acrylic April is that you don't do it alone, right? You come to the, if you can come to the live streams, come to the, but they're not live, they're premieres, but come to the live chat. It's 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific. I think that's how time zones work.
They're zones.
Those are the ones I have memorized. But it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you can come and chat. And then there's the group, the Acrylic April group. Come there. People really get it. So there have been people who've done all the previous years. So they understand how you feel. If you're frustrated, if you feel down, just, come let us know. We're there. You're going to get so much support. There's also the Art Sherpa official group. If you do my tutorials, you can share those tutorials in that group as well. We will have word prompts this year for people that are inclined to do their own thing. So that's still available to everybody. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else. Just watch for the newsletter, and I can't wait to share this with you.
That's it.
Be good to yourself. Be good to each other, and I want to see you April 1st. No kidding. Bye-bye.